Hi everyone, this is Cody Smith. Welcome to my channel, Cody Smith, Peer Support with Christ. I wanted to start off by saying that I'm going to be telling you my story through these incoming videos, like I do in my book, because I wanted to give you the opportunity to go a bit deeper. And to start off with, I am 31 years old, about to be 32 this September. I was born September 30th, 1993. And I am one of a set of twin sons, the youngest of a set of twin sons. And the thing is, I was born 3.5 months premature, so that meant that I was very underdeveloped and small, both internally and externally underdeveloped. So, what happened is the reason I have a disability is because I was very sick. I believe, according to what my parents told me, it was pneumonia or walking pneumonia, something like that. I'm not exactly certain. And the thing was, my blood pressure was very unstable, constantly going up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down, and never stabilizing. And since everything was underdeveloped, both internally and externally, including the blood vessels of the brain, my blood vessels couldn't take the unstable pressure and they ruptured, which caused severe bleeding, and that is what resulted in my disability, cerebral palsy. So it has been a for life issue, and my childhood was that I spent at least the first year or more in, you know, the hospital, in and out of the hospital due to different health problems. And since I was so small and sick, meaning, to be more specific, I came out of the womb at 1 pound and 10 ounces and dropped to 1 pound and 3 ounces in weight. And my head was about the size of a baseball. So, my family, instead of putting regular clothing on us that you would put on a baby, they would have to put doll clothes on my brother and I because we were so small. My brother, he does not have a disability. He was about, you know, he was bigger than I, and because he was the firstborn, he was bigger than I was, so he didn't really have any problems because he didn't suffer the brain bleeds that I did. And so basically, after getting out of the hospital, and it was kind of a day-to-day thing of, are we going to live, are we going to die, what's going to happen for at least the first year or more. And then it was, the way we found out was the doctor was working on us, trying to keep us alive, and mom was like, and my mom asked the doctor, can I hold my children? He said yes, but I wouldn't get too comfortable because they'll probably die by sunrise. My brother was born at 4:40 a.m. I was born at 4:50 a.m. But, thankfully, yes, we did live, and we're now in our 30s. We're identical twins. He's the older of the two by 10 minutes. And basically, it was after that, I was, in and out of the hospital, and I spent my childhood going through school, typical everyday school. and also going through therapy. And when I say therapy, I mean things like physical therapy, which is like working the muscles, trying to strengthen them in order to gain my independence and have the strength to do day to day tasks, as well as occupational, which is actually doing the day to day tasks of daily living, such as um, whether it be depending on your age, what you're struggling with, you know, the level of severity of your disability, you know, it could vary. It varies person to person, but that's like getting dressed, bathing, eating, drinking, using the bathroom, using a phone, driving, you name it, whatever a person does on a daily basis, you know, that's one of those things, as well as speech therapy, because cerebral palsy affects every muscle of the human body, including the muscles of the mouth and throat, which can cause problems with mumbling, slurred speech, swallowing, drooling, and things like that. So I would have to go through these different things. And I also did aquatic therapy, which is, of course, getting into a pool and exercising that way. So I did those things growing up, and I also did horseback riding therapy, which is where I would get on a horse and ride it, and I would try to do different exercises to strengthen different parts of my body, which is maybe there would be like a fence post, and I would have like little rings or something, like little plastic rings that I would lean over and try to put on the fence post or pole, and different things like that. Just working on balance and coordination and those different things. And of course, it changed as I grew up. So that is how I spent most of my childhood, doing that and doing, trying to figure out, what works best for me, how to accommodate me when it comes to school and daily life. What are my struggles? How do I work through them? What tools do I need? And things like that. Although I will say it's not all doom and gloom, because there were some good things that happened. As one example, I was in a radio contest for children with disabilities when I was about 9, and I won an all expense paid trip to Disney World for my entire family from the Ace and TJ radio show. And I will admit that, on the other side of that, having my disability has caused me to need a lot of surgery over the years, such as I had what's called a selective dorsal rhizotomy, which is surgery on my spinal cord, where the doctor would go in and he would give an electric shock to the nerves in my lower back, because he's also trying to stimulate the nerves in my legs. And if they did what they were supposed to do, he would leave it alone, but if they didn't, he would cut it so that it wouldn't do anything. That way, it would not interfere with the ones that worked properly. And I also had what's called a hamstring and heel cord lengthening surgery. So, where he, the doctor would go in and cut little slits up and down my hamstrings and heel cords so that they can stretch out and expand and loosen up. So, yes, we do have our good moments and bad moments, just like everyone else. And so does everybody else with a disability. I can't speak for everyone. I will say, when you really look at it, we had those, good days and bad days, strengths and weaknesses, just like everyone else on the face of the earth, whether we have a disability or not. Our disability just makes us have to go through things that aren't typical, that you typically wouldn't expect, and we have to kind of change our tactics, factoring in our disability as, okay, how is this holding me back, and what can I do about it? Like, how is this restraining me from doing what I want to do, and what sort of tools or things do I need to help me be able to do that. And I had to learn that very quickly. And that made me a very analytical person where I have to think things through and plan them. And that is what I've learned to do and become a habit over the years. And that's pretty much my childhood is doing that because, I had to do that to try to build strength and build independence to a certain extent. And of course, as I grew up, I did more and slowly but steadily up until I was an adult, worked to gain my independence. And this is chapter one of my book, The World of Disability. And in chapter two, I will speak more about my disability itself and other things related to that as well, and get more specific into mine because my disability, cerebral palsy, has different types that I will get into in the next chapter. Thanks, everybody. Feel free to leave questions and comments because I want to be as conversational as possible. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.